Oh, we're looking at a book at the start of the episode to fucking day. Do. Hey, do you remember Small Soldiers? That was a thing in 1998 or 9? When did this come out? 1998. Small Soldiers. I fucking loved Small Soldiers. I'm going to try not to just spend ages talking about Small Soldiers, but I will spend ages talking about Small Soldiers. This book specifically, randomly out of nowhere the other day, Small Soldiers popped into my head. I think I had that song in my head, the Toy Soldiers, the Eminem one. We all fall down. And in my head, I went, like small soldiers. I know it's like toy soldiers, but then my head, being funny, said small soldiers. And I was like, ha, yeah, that's funny. Then I thought, small soldiers, maybe I'll fucking watch that. Maybe I'll do a drawing of small soldiers. 90s culture, man. And then then the memory of this book popped into my head. And I had this book when I was a kid. But it got lost to time and, not caring and throwing my possessions around like whatever. And I looked on eBay. I thought, I wonder if it's still available. And it bloody is. And I got a copy. It's a bit smaller than I remember. But, I'm older and bigger and fatter now, so that's understandable. But it's a really cool, nifty little book still. Even for the time it is, and you don't really see books like this too often, it's not an art of book, because there's plenty of like a film comes out and they release a book of art of the film or whatever, but this is like a companion piece to the film almost. Well, the whole book is this book's put together as if it exists in the world of Small Soldiers. Like it is a top secret dossier. It's all these, letters between diary entries and letters between characters in the film, and bits and pieces, pink slips saying you're fired of certain people, letters from the big corporation taking over the small corporation, emails between different characters in the film. It's like a little extra piece of media based on the film of Small Soldiers, and it's got a bunch of stuff in it. It's really cool. I think it's really fucking neat. I want to say you don't see books like this much nowadays, but maybe you do. I'm not looking for them, so I don't see them, but it's a neat fucking thing. Now, on reflection, on reading this again or looking through it, I didn't really read it. It's written for kids, obviously. It's very simplistic. And there's not really any information. There's maybe a handful, a very, very small, minuscule handful of pieces of information you get from this book that aren't already in the film. Because I think the whole point is like, what does it say? The real story of the Small Soldiers. You want to know the real underlying story of the Small Soldiers. Like it's some sort of secrets that you're going to get from this. But there's not really too much to it. It's just a neat little thing. It's a neat item to have. So then you've got this Gorgonite's composition book developed by Erwin Wayfair, which is the character who designed the Gorgonites in the film. And it's got the Gorgonites' backstory, their home worlds, all these maps. And I love that it's put together with like bits of paper and, pencils and paper clips and stuff. Like it's it's documents. It's documenting documents. And then this, you got the Gorgonites, Archer, a nice drawing of the Archer. And then this is like legit concept art, I guess, from the film, I think. Not huge amounts, but like it's pretty decent drawings of Archer from the film, and some information about him, but that's like, again, very sort of, Jesus, that's what we were waiting for. Very much geared towards children, very basic, sort of like homeworld, Trigonia, topography, forested, climate, chilly, and new ice ages, spoken line, greetings, like simple stuff, nothing too in depth, but slam fist, concept art. And I had I had a couple of the toys. I had him and I had a Chip Hazard figure. And here you could actually take his fist off and put it in his other hand, and then you twist the top of his torso, and it was spring loaded. So then you twist it and let go, and it springs back and flings the boulder fist away, which is really fucking cool. That was a really cool, like, big chunky toy as well. Those chunky 90s toys, them and Street Sharks and stuff. Insaniac. He's a cool one. I love the concept art here. You're like a voodoo fucking warrior priest or something, some shaman. Here he's got a funny pointy goblin nose. And I like how he's all bound up, almost like a straitjacket, walking on a hand, holding shit with his feet. Some really cool concepts there. Punch it and then scratch it is the little guy who sits on his head. Some really fucking cool concept. That's like legit drawings, like fantasy art concept of this funny monster character, this big rhino looking thing. Really, really like that. Those are pretty fun little doodles. Again, some fucking serious. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it on the screen, because it's really small, so I'm trying to zoom in just enough you can see it, but not too much that it blurs it. And like drawings of them all looking at a computer screen because they're toys. Yeah, that's some serious, like, actual fantasy art concept work. It's really, really cool. And it's almost a shame that, like, that's how it came out, as this weird tri-legged eye thing, when it could have been this guy. But it works in context of the film. Troglocan, or as I called him, Troglocan, because I didn't know how to pronounce shit. And I don't think they mention his name in the film. The concept art there, he could have had these like bone spike things on his arms, but doesn't. So then that's obviously just that drawing taken from there directly. Still cool drawings though. All their weapons, and then a little note. I agonised over whether or not to give my Gorgonites weapons. They just don't believe in violence. I tried at least to make the weapons historical though, so kids could learn something while they were beating one another up. If you're unaware of Small Soldiers, fucking look it up. I was going to give a brief overview of what Small Soldiers. If you don't know it, where have you been? Look it up. So then Larry Benson is leaving notes for the guy who designed the Gorgonites to say these are boring. Kids don't want to learn; they want to fight. So then there's his notes on his toy line of the Commando Elite. And then I felt a little bit bummed because of, the Gorgonites. You get all like their homeworld and their, the land of Gorgon and concept art and stuff. And then the Commando Elite, you just basic, again, spoken line, victory will be ours, like, whatever. Cool enough image of the guy, but then this is just taken from there, which is you could use just another image, a photo of the actual toy or something you could have put there. I like that it's like a dog tag though, that's quite cool. Brick Bazooka, Nick Nitro, Butch Meathook, Kip Killigan and Link Static. And then all their lines here are the lines from when they first come out of their boxes. They burst out of their boxes, and then Chip Hazard's got them all lined up. And they all actually say these lines in the film, so that's kind of neat. And I was looking through this earlier, and I did notice here, it's got some of their weaponry, some of the, hey kids, don't send your troops into battle unequipped, like accessories that would come with the toys. Cool. You don't realise when you're a kid, because you don't really know, but then having grown up and learning more about stuff in general, and more about guns and things, you realise they've just gotten pictures of guns and then put in words that relate to guns in some kind of way. So you've got Brick Bazooka's high pulse laser rifle. Now that, I don't know the name, but I recognise that as a type of machine gun. that's not a high pulse laser rifle. Like a laser rifle should look like a laser rifle. That just is a machine gun. Chip Hazard's rapid fire revolver, which it isn't. Again, it's another kind of machine gun. It looks a bit invented, but it's like a, what do they call it? Is it a chain fed or whatever it is? I don't know, whatever. But it's not a revolver at all. And a rapid fire revolver is kind of like, I guess it could exist, but that's, I don't know, just dumb. Brick Bazooka's sonic beam disruptor, again, just another type of machine gun. That's not really a sonic beam disruptor. I don't really know what that would look like. And then just, grenades, ninja stars. Nick Nitro's lightweight automatic assault weapon. Sure, I'll buy that. Kip Gilligan's sniper scope rifle. Like, sure, it's got a sniper scope on it. But that's a very small, like, submachine gun with a short barrel and no stock on the back. Like, it's almost worthless having such a large scope on a rifle like that. Like, that's not a sniper. Butch Meathook's super octane flamethrower. If anything, this looks more like a flamethrower, mainly because of the colours. But that's just, it's either an M4 or an M16 with a grenade launcher. I know that. That's a machine gun with a grenade launcher attachment. It's not a flamethrower. Like, a flamethrower should have like a gas canister and a tube and a little torch at the front for when the gas ignites it as it comes out the back. That's not flame. Dependable pistol sidearm, cool. Turbo blade launcher, that looks like a turbo blade launcher, that's cool. And then a munitions pack. It's just, it doesn't matter. It works for the book, their toys, it's whatever. But it's just funny that they've just put gun words, like whatever, next to gun pictures. Whatever. And then this book almost tells the story of the film through all these notes and stuff. Like, hey, here's some people who can help us build the toys. And then, Larry, what have you done to Archer? Arch Fiend, he's called him. How could you do that? Again, I like all the paper clips and post-it notes. It's very basically done on Photoshop or whatever, but it's a neat look to have in the book. And it's cool that they've got, like, these account things and shipping orders and stuff. That, yeah, it is like extra stuff you wouldn't see in the film, and it's not hugely necessary to know, but it just shows that, they're shipping 40 of each of the Commando Elite, but only 25 of each of the Gorgonites. It's cool, like, bonus info and stuff. And then a written note of the message the character Alan leaves after the Commando Elite destroy the toy store. And then the railway tickets for those two guys going to visit this kid. Newspaper clipping of the whole devastation caused when the Commando Elite fucking destroyed everything. And what they do have, the microprocessor they put into them. These are really cool, like concept sketches of the vehicles they make. The communications guy is like actually wiretapping a phone. They got like butane tanks that they're making weapons out of. That's a fucking flamethrower. And so Toy Story was cool, and I always, whenever I played with toys, I'd play adventure games with toys, but there was always sort of like, I felt like there was something missing. Then Toy Story happened, and I was like, toys are toys. They can still move around, but you can register in your head, this is a toy, but it's a toy having adventures. It doesn't have to be, an action hero or whatever. It's just a toy, but it's having adventures. I loved playing with toys as if they were toys, but moving around. But then this came out, and it was like, oh shit, they're toys, but they kick fucking ass. They make shit out of skateboards and propane tanks and wheels, and they make weapons out of like household items, tools and things. They've got knives and shit on these wheeled vehicles they've put together. A pogo stick and this thing that shoots sharpened washers, and this thing that shoots tennis balls. And these are really cool drawings, like blueprints of stuff they do actually build in the films. And they're really well detailed as well. And they're really, really cool little pieces. This fucking huge gangster tank mech looking thing that with a nail gun. That's really cool. Some really cool like concept stuff. Pencils and erasers and stuff. And now this is one scene that like didn't think about it at all when I was a kid. I just thought it was cool. So there's the girl in the film has like this collection of Barbie dolls, and the Commando Elite take the Barbie dolls and then take the microchip from one of the dead soldiers, and they set up this system to basically create like a Frankenstein group of Barbie doll army cadets or whatever. When you watch that as a kid, you're like, okay, cool, sure, whatever. And they're all talking like Barbie dolls would talk. But the thing is, the Commando Elite, they've got like, I assume, you know, metal skeletons on the inside of their bodies, and they're built with electronics throughout them so they can walk and talk and move and do things. But then they just use electricity and this microchip to have the same thing happen to these, but they're just Barbie dolls basically. They've just got rubber and plastic in their bodies. They don't have wiring. They don't have skeletons. They can't move and bend their own arms and walk around and talk even, and all have like lines of dialogue they use, and they can move their mouths. And I mean, you even see when they're putting the Commando Elite together, it's almost like a Terminator thing where they've got these metal skeletons, like a metal skull with the jaw that moves and eyes that move, and then they put like the skin of the head on top of that and like, you know, spark weld it together or whatever. Whereas all of these dolls, they're just plastic dolls. They don't have any of that interior workings. So there's no way they could create this army out of these plastic dolls. It's so silly. It's just silly. But, you know, it's one of those things. It's like I can suspend disbelief to be like, they make these toys, the company's bought out by like, you know, some munitions company basically, and they use a microchip that's meant for like, you know, it's a weapons grade military army microchip. They put in the toys and the toys go haywire and basically have sentience. They even say in the film it's not artificial intelligence, it's actual intelligence, because this microchip learns and you know, does stuff. It builds on what it's already got. So the toys become these like violent, dangerous little people almost. You suspend disbelief enough for that, but then when it comes to stuff like this, it's like, come on, like that's a step too far. Like he says in the film from 1998, that's about toys fighting each other. And this is really cool as well. Like Trogla Khan, they maybe mention his name in the film briefly, but I guess that he's not really in the film because he gets destroyed early on, and then the Gorgonites put him back together in a weird way with like radio parts and stuff. And that's really cool. And you can get a toy of that. I had a couple of the toys, as I said, and I looked into buying, like to see if I could re-buy the toys just because they're quite cool. It would be cool to have them. But I guess they're rare now because they're selling for like hundreds of pounds in some cases. Thousands, actually, in some cases, if they're like full sets, all in their boxes and stuff. Like hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And then the checks that they get, £10 million, dollars, I guess, really. and then like a little note saying how they are re-advertising the toys for the actual military for people in, like, I don't know, Afghanistan or whatever. He wasn't kidding. We have to do something to stop this. And then they say here, your missing Gorgonites seem to have survived the accident. They were spotted getting into a model boat and heading who knows where. They get shipped off on a ship to go and find their homeland because they survive the electromagnetic pulse. And so this is like a postcard from the Gorgonites. They've learned how to send postcards. We're off to explore this fascinating world as we hunt for the land of Gorgon. Thank you for everything you've done for us. And then this is quite funny, like Archer, Slamfist, and so it's supposed to be like they've all signed the postcard individually, but it's all just different fonts, which is quite funny. Like, they could have put one more step of effort in to just get someone to handwrite these things. All these notes and stuff, they're obviously just computer fonts that look vaguely handwritten. But they could have had someone just handwrite it, scan it in, but they didn't. But again, it's a book for kids. There's me going, well, this doesn't make sense and this is stupid. It's like, I'm not going to be one of those guys because it's just a fucking book for kids. But it's a neat little book, and it might be just enough. Obviously, I can use Google Images all day to get images of the Gorgonites and the Commando Elite to draw them, but I think this book itself could be enough to look through and use to draw pictures. And with that being said, let's draw some fucking pictures. Ugh. Major Chip Hazard, leader of the Commando Elite, voiced by Tommy Lee Jones. So I did think, I know I said I'm going to do, a Rocksteady and Bebop drawing, painting, maybe a print, and I will. I'm going to, calm down. I've got plans, I've got big plans, lots and lots to do. But I think it would be quite cool to do a full, like a big Commando Elite painting, turn that into a print, and a big Gorgonite painting, turn that into a print. It's another one where like the issue is trying to fit so many characters onto one thing. Like, I want to show as much of each character as possible, but then trying to cram them all into one space can become a bit tricky. So that'll need some working out, but it's entirely doable. I have no doubt that it's possible and that I could achieve that. So we will aim and endeavour to do so. For now, just a couple of little drawings. So why not? Try to get me used to the shapes and such of the toys of small soldiers. I seriously loved that. I watched it so many times. Like, probably not literally, but basically hundreds of times. And then, because I had my toys, I had Slamfist and I had Chip Hazard. And they come with, a couple of basic accessories. But I loved that, in the film, the Commando Elite especially, they make all their own weapons and stuff out of stuff. So I would, I tried to make some as much as I could, being like fucking 10 years old or whatever I was. I tried to make my own accessories for them that looked like stuff they'd make. So I found a corkscrew, so I had that as a weapon that Chip Hazard would use. I also, I realised later on he has a knife that's made out of like a scalpel blade, basically like that, and then I don't know, tape or wire or whatever for a handle for it. Excuse me. And obviously at that young age I wasn't able to get hold of anything like that, but I did. We had these foil like service trays. It was like foil but thick foil. So I got one of those and cut it up into like blade shapes and like folded it over and sort of flattened it down to make basically a blade that was sharp. You couldn't cut anything with it, but it was sharp and pointy. And then I used electrical tape for a handle, so it would fit into the toy's hand, which is, nothing super impressive, but it was stuff I was pretty proud of. Little extra accessories and things. And I think I've mentioned before that I used to have loads of wrestling toys. I was really into wrestling toys, a fucking nerd kid that I was. And wrestling toys would come with action figures. Sorry, they'd come with accessories like steel chairs and tables you could break and whatever. But then I'd make loads of my own. I'd make all the backstage areas. I'd get cardboard boxes and just turn them almost like a Barbie's dollhouse sort of thing. But I'd turn them into like locker rooms and boiler rooms, and they'd have doors that opened into other rooms and hallways and things. And like the accessories that the toys would come with would be like, some would come with lockers and trash cans and stuff, or sledgehammers. So I'd have them fit into, I'd have a locker room, and I'd build this unit out of card in the locker room that you could slide these plastic lockers into. And I'd make a bench, and I'd have weights as an accessory I got from some of them, so they'd go in the locker room. And I'd make tiles. I'd print out little JPEGs of like screenshots from wrestling video games to go as posters on the lockers. I put a lot of work into this. There'd be pipes and fire extinguishers I'd make and stuff, all kinds of shit. I got really, really into wrestling action figures and whatnot. So when it came to, I think that might have been sort of around the same time I was really into small soldiers. So it was sort of, it fit together quite nicely to be making accessories and weapons and stuff for my Chip Hazard. I did notice how the toys, because you could buy a couple of like Archer and Chip Hazard, like the full 12-inch fully articulated toys, but the ones I had that were easier to get hold of and that you could get more variety of characters were the sort of 6-inch or so ones, which are really cool toys still, but they were limited. They had limited articulation, and like the paint jobs were a lot more basic, which is completely understandable. They're smaller, they're real toys. They have to put limits somewhere. You can't have completely fully detailed 6-inch action figures. But what I did, because I was into the Warhammers, so I had a bunch of like those model paints and stuff. So I painted extra details. So like Chip Hazard has this, or like intercom, like a panel here, like a walkie-talkie thing here. That was pretty basic on the toy. So I painted extra details on that, like a little like radar thing here and extra little bits. There's like the logo on his belt. This logo here was pretty basic on the toy. And in the film, that's like the button you press to like make them work, to activate them, and it glows green. So I painted that on the toys, like a glowy green kind of colour. I did that with my Slam Fist as well. I painted more spots on him and like highlights on his face and stuff, where in the film, he had more tone and detail in his skin and stuff. And I also painted the glowy Gorgonite symbol that he would have to be activated. I put the work in, man. I made these toys fucking, because I loved them. I loved the toys and I loved playing with them. So I wanted to make them, as good as they could possibly be. Because I was a fucking, well, I don't say I was a nerdy little kid, but like I was a fucking genius little kid. I was resourceful. I made all my own shit. And, bless my mum's heart that she was able to get me these toys, because, as I've mentioned time and time again, we were not remotely well off. So the fact that I was able to have these cool toys was outstanding enough. But, I'd had a history of sort of making my own shit since we couldn't always afford the cool shit. Because you could buy like backstage areas for wrestlers. They were very limited, but you could buy a few of them. But I always thought it was much better to make my own, because then I can make them how I want and I can fill them with all these extra details and stuff. I'd love to be in a position now where I can get these toys again and then build all the actual shit they had, because I can, now I'm in my 30s, I could get hold of nail guns and fucking make a tennis ball launcher and whatever else, propane tanks or gas tanks, lighter fluid and all kinds of shit. I could make all of these cool toy weapons. But, you know, that's one of those things to do when, you know, if I become successful enough that I can happily spend that much time making toy weapons and things like that. And that would be cool to do, like to make all the shit you see in the film. Because there's a skateboard that they ride on, and I could do that and get a bunch of washers and make a little cannon to fire them out. Do all that shit. Kick ass. And it would make great content for a video. The title would be like, making in real life all the handmade weapons from small soldiers. Or whatever, I don't know. I was gonna say, if you haven't seen Small Soldiers, then, you know, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it just because it's a fun little thing. Rewatching it now, I'm not sure it holds up entirely. It certainly isn't one of the greatest films you'll ever see, but for what it is, it's a neat little film, and there's some really cool bits to it. Just the designs of the toys are really cool, and the fact that they obviously did make, in some parts it's obviously like CGI and stop motion and stuff, but they made all these actual physical toys, and they look really, really cool. It's also a very odd film because it's I guess slated as like action sci-fi adventure sort of thing, but then most of the characters, like Erwin and Larry, the two main sort of toy designer guys, are two stand-up comedians. David Cross, who's pretty big and famous, he's been in loads of shit, and Jay Moore, who is maybe less well known, but he's certainly a very well-known comedian within those circles. Yeah, he's been in other stuff as well, but not quite as far-reaching as David Cross. Phil Hartman is in it. He plays the rich neighbour dad, and this is like literally a year before he died, I think. And obviously Phil Hartman, if you're unaware, famous from The Simpsons for doing loads of voices, including Troy McClure. I can't do the voice, but you know, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such films as blah 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 blah. He's that guy who was murdered by his wife. I only learnt this the other day after I was looking it up after rewatching the film. Yeah, he was fucking murdered by his wife, shot in the face. He was in bed and his wife was drunk and they'd had a fight or whatever. And then his wife fucking shot him between the eyes and in the throat and in the chest. And he was dead in bed. And then his wife went somewhere all crazy and upset and then went somewhere else and shot herself, I think. Which is just fucking bananas. Like, you know, Phil Hartman was a known and loved like guy, actor, voice actor, like in comedy terms and stuff. Just hilarious, brilliant guy, and just fucking gone, just like that. It's pretty insane. But he's in the film too, and yeah, and there's a lot of like, there's some really funny bits in the film. A lot of it, the dialogue is almost entirely spoken in like, especially from the toys perspective, in like film cliches and stuff. Like the amount of movie of like references to old war films and stuff is pretty funny. What's one? I love the smell of shit. I know that the actual quote is "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," but then in the film it's like "I love the smell of polyurethane in the morning" or something, because it's a toy and he's, you know, it's plastics and it's whatever, oil or whatever the fuck polyurethane is. I don't know, but it's a neat film. I dig it. I might become obsessed with it again and just start watching it over and over. You won't see, every podcast episode now is going to be related somehow to Small Soldiers. I mean, that said, I did do the colours, didn't I? I did a series of podcasts all drawing single colours. I could do that. Each podcast drawing a different member of the Commando Elite or one of the Gorgonites until I've built up a full collection. I did even think one way I could produce these would be to draw and paint each of these individually on a blank background and then just Photoshop them together, like layered behind each other, which could work but also could not work. I'd have to draw them in such a way that they would fit together in a certain way, otherwise it could look a bit messy and there could be like weird gaps where some of them don't quite fit into the frame. So that's one idea. But another idea, because it would be like here where you've got Punch It, I thought of having Insaniac's head just on top with his shoulders and stuff in the background, so it's like his head's coming forwards, and then have like a hand here and maybe one of Ocula's feet here or something. So I'm still debating on that, but I could do once a week, and there's 12 characters total. There's 6 of each, basically. I noted them down. Yeah, you've got Archer, Slamfist, Insaniac, Punch It with Scratch It. They sort of go together as two, don't they? Ocular and Troglocan. But I figured I'd probably do Freakenstein instead of Troglocan, or Troglocan, whatever, just because. And then, yeah, Chip, Brick, Nick, Butch, Kip, and Link. 6 of those. So 6 of each, 12. Total 1 a week, 12 weeks. Draw them, paint them. It would only take me 12 weeks. That's sort of 3 months. Which, you know, might be a good way of doing it in between other projects. Means I still get stuff done. I'm not focusing on them constantly. And then every week for the podcast, it'd be like, oh, who's he drawing today? Let's find out. It's... Well, they'd probably be in the thumbnail, so it might not be that big a surprise. I probably won't do that, but yeah, it's an idea. It'd just be funny if I did suddenly get ridiculously obsessed with the Small Soldiers again. That's a grenade, by the way. Oh, I really like the shape of Slamfist. It's like his body's like this shape, and his arms fit really nicely into these little crevices here. Big muscular arms, and he's a big hulking figure, which I like anyway, with like the Hulk, gun Viking, big hulking figures. And he also has no neck, which I also like, which you can do with the Hulk quite often. And also gun Viking, his neck's hidden, usually just by his hair or whatever. Yeah, I think Slamfist is probably one of my favourites in terms of design and stuff. Insaniac's pretty good, very Goblin-esque, Joker, Green Goblin kind of face. Punch It and Scratch It's pretty cool. I do like having a big one with a little one. That's quite a neat little thing. Ocular is a little bit almost generic. Like it feels like something you could see in 100 other random sci-fi movies and stuff. Troglodyte and Archer, they go pretty well together. I don't know if they're from the same place. Wuldakan and Trigonia, no, I guess they're not. But they fit together quite nicely. Different kinds of tribes, people and stuff. But yeah, I think Slamfist has one of the best, not necessarily one of the best designs, but certainly one of my favourite designs of the Gorgonite. And that's I was super happy when I unwrapped him one Christmas morning, because, like I say, it's one of my favourites, and the fact that my mum was able to get him for me. And I didn't even tell mum that he's one of my favourites, that I want him. I think I told my mum I'd really love some Small Soldiers toys if you can get them. And bless her, she bloody did. His eyes, I'm not sure how to go about drawing his eyes. I think that sort of works, I think. He even has that sort of like the modern Hulk hair with nothing on the back and sides, but just the little scruffy bit on the top of his head. Maybe I'll have to do like a Slamfist Incredible Hulk crossover drawing. That's only because I laughed when I said that, and I was like, just thinking, why? It's not particularly funny. I don't know why you'd laugh saying that. I haven't looked it up, but I do wonder if there is an Art of Small Soldiers book or anything out there, because if so, I should have that. I'll open up my laptop quick. I'll have a quick look, see. I won't spend too long. But oh, excuse me. And like I say, I was looking into buying the toys again, which could be cool to have them. And that's the thing, it would be cool just to have them, just because. But I know if I did get hold of any of them, it would be really cool for like a couple of days. I'd be like, hey, wow, and I'd arrange them on the side, probably in my kitchen or something, and I'd look at them, take a couple of cool photos, and then 2 days later I'd be like, ah, shit. And probably, spent hundreds of pounds getting them all. And if I did get them, I'd want to get like the full set available in the same scale I had before, but like the full set, which would be costly to say the least. And I'd just think like I should have spent my money better than this. I shouldn't be doing this. And because, that happens from time to time where, I'll buy like an art book, and it might not be a great art book, and I'll think like, Not that it was a waste, but I'm not that buzzed about having bought it after all. And then suddenly I'll require almost the exact amount of money the book cost. I'll be like, shit, I really could have used that fucking £20-30 right now. But no, I spent it on fucking some book I don't give a shit about. Right, Art of Small Soldiers. Does it exist? Well, there's a bunch of stuff on Google Images that's just concept art. Some of which is in this book, which is quite cool. Wall art. Nah. No, I guess not. And when I looked for this book, the only other book I saw was like a novelization of the film, which I've always found a bit strange. Like, the film is the film. Because there's a lot of that happens very often where you can buy novelizations of like films and games and stuff. And I always just think like, I mean, if you like reading and you like a thing, then cool, you know, do it. Get it the thing and read the thing. But I just think, just watch the film. Why do you need to read the film when the film is already the film that you can just watch? Like, if it was a book first, then sure, okay, fine. Read the book. There's probably a lot more info in there. You know, it's the original. It's probably better. You're probably going to enjoy it a lot more. But if it was a film first, then why? This isn't reading to me. This as Slamfist. I don't know quite what I've done right or wrong. I'm gonna have to Google Slamfist. What am I getting wrong? That's the toy I had. Wow. His eyebrows are supposed to be a bit bigger. The hair is supposed to be a lot smaller. And the shape of his chin is different. Yeah, I've not done great. Supposed to have like a dimple there. Chunkier eyebrows. And he is supposed to have like a much smaller bit of hair on his head. He's got like spots and marks and things. And this is why, so the toy has some of these spots here, but then the one in the film has like a lot, they're more like freckles than just a few spots. So I added a bunch in and like made them smaller and like faded them in and stuff. I loved that toy so much. I want another one. I think if nothing else, it might be cool just to re-buy the toys I had when I was a kid. So the Slam Fist and the Chip Hazard. But then it's like, if I'm going to do that, I want the whole set. Because that's the whole point, isn't it? Of being an adult and being able to get the stuff you never had as a kid. It's like, yeah, getting the stuff I did have as a kid is one thing. But then it's like, I'm in a position to get the stuff I didn't have as a kid. And I can now have. So why am I not doing that? Dummy, Ewan, you fucking idiot. But again, hundreds and hundreds of pounds, so I probably won't. And the regret afterwards. When they then sit collecting dust for years and years. Because I'm certainly not going to play with them in the same way I did when I was younger. I might, if I was to buy, you know, the Commando Elite at least, then yeah, I'd probably put at least some effort into making some weapons just because it would be cool to do. But outside of that, yeah, I don't really know if it's worth all that effort. I think his head's supposed to be a lot smaller as well here. It's looking a bit more like Slam Fist. Does that happen when you draw things? You're trying to draw something specific and you start drawing it and it just doesn't look like how you picture the thing in your head. Like, I know what Slam Fist looks like, but I just can't seem to make my drawing look like how Slam Fist looks in my head. But now he's looking a bit more like I think he should. This is one drawing. It's not like this drawing's going to be used for anything. It's just, you know, I want to get it right, don't I? Love the big chunky arms. I'm just going to straight copy them from this drawing for now. He also, I mean, my design of Gun Viking might even be indirectly inspired by this, because on this arm he's got these straps. And I think that looks really cool. And it's like where I put all the bandages and stuff around Gun Viking's arms and things. That may be... I will say this was not in mind at all when designing Gun Viking. But it may have been like a subconscious, indirect inspiration. Like the image was in my head of this arm wrapped in whatever. I didn't directly reference it, mentally or otherwise, for Gun Viking, but it snuck in there regardless. But of course, I'm going to have to add in the joints and stuff, like the little like screws and things. Because when I do the big pictures featuring all of the Gorgonites and the Commando Elite, I want to make them look like toys. So I want them to have like the joints and stuff. So this arm would be like this, and then there'd be a bit here with the joint where the forearm connects. Because that's the whole thing. I'm all for like doing cool drawings of characters, but the whole point of the characters from Small Soldiers is that they're toys. So I want to draw them as toys in it. Oh, that's still wet, that Tipex. Wow. Usually dries much quicker. All in all, I just, you know, it's just a nice little trip down memory lane in it. A little bit of nostalgia. Just remember some of the good old times before, you know, all the horrendous things we're dealing with currently. Did you know there's a war going on? You know, another war. Another one, you know. Maybe it should be fought with toys. That would be cool. They should have toy soldiers fighting the wars. That'd be funny, wouldn't it? Ooh.